Hello, everybody. It's James here. Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 114. I'm sorry, everybody, you missed 20 minutes of airing grievances by me and Dutch there. That we didn't end up recording, did we, Dutch?
No, we did not.
No.
And that should have been recorded. That is a bitch for the ages.
Yeah, thank you.
Folks, you didn't miss it because... Anyway, talk about my books and we'll talk about what you said.
Oh, yes. ProWrestlingTees.com. Visit us there. We've got books as well. Facebook as well. Visit us there. Links are in the description. But the main thing is that...
a third one coming.
Right, you've been threatening this for a while.
Well, I'm just finishing it up.
Oh, have you been writing more?
Maybe I'm a perfectionist. I got most of it written. I just got to find it.
Find it?
You know, it's filed away somewhere in my files. See?
Who's going to edit it for you?
Oh, I got two friends of mine. They're in Nashville, around Nashville. Okay. They're in Tennessee.
It was like Mark James, one of them who did.
Mark James is one of them. And my friend Rick. Can't remember his last name.
Flair?
Because I have that problem all the time.
Not Flair.
What'd you say?
Not Flair.
Oh, it's not Ric Flair. No, he's a lot smarter than Ric Flair. No. So...
There we go. Well, Dutch does have two books available right now. Story Times, this podcast. It's one of them days, Dutch. The World According to Dutch and Tales from a Dirt Road. If you want them unsigned, go to Amazon. Links are in the description. If you want them signed, you can go to Dirty Dutchman with 2 L's at gmail.com. And Dutch also has some hats signed for sale as well. University of Dutch hats and diplomas as well. So if you want to be a graduate of Dutch University... Oh, there's a hat, in fact. You email Dirty Dutchman.
Only about 4 left.
Only about 4 left. There you go. Getting while the getting's good. And also I've spelt Stevie with 2 T's somehow. TTEV show, the Stevie Richards show every single Friday. This is one of the worst intros I've ever done. So really, Dutch, I think I need to stop doing the plugs, and we need to turn it over to you, and we need to talk about the death of Sid Vicious at the age of 63. And Dutch, you were the one who told me about it.
Well, I've known Sid since not the day he started, but probably in the first couple of months that he started. I was introduced to Sid Vicious. And his real name is Sid Udi. And I was thinking, Udi? I don't know, Udi, Tootie, Fruity, you know. I said, maybe that's a bad name for a wrestler. I said, we need another name for him. And because I wasn't the booker, but I was just talking to the booker. I said, you know what we need to call him? And I had been, and I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again. It's a great story. I just listened to it myself. The Sex Pistols, Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious, I had just been reading about them. And I said, we need to call him Sid Vicious because it fit the wrestler Sid more than it fit the musician Sid. And I said, Sid Vicious, that's a great name for a wrestler. So we called him that. And he kept it basically till he stopped wrestling. He was still Sid Vicious, good guy. And I got several stories about him. One of the things is Sid, and I've told this story before, but I'll get back to it. Football season, and people in the United States, they will, back up this fact. It's like soccer, or you call it football in England or Europe.
Yeah. Season's different over here, though, because they only get 6 weeks off. I think American football's, September to January? Something like that?
Yeah. So, but it's the main sport, college football, American football. And I was working for WCW, and it was me and Sid and the Iron Sheik riding together. This is the damnedest time I've ever spent in the wrestling profession because we were working 7 days a week. And then on Mondays, after we finished the week on Sunday, and sometimes double headers Sunday, we would all fly back to Atlanta to do the TV show. So, and I was riding with Sid Vicious, and the Iron Sheik. And I say that I was out on the road 64 days. Well, I couldn't take 64 days with the Iron Sheik and Sid. So I had to actually jump ride about halfway through it. And I'll tell you why. Because it was getting too much for me to put up with Sheik and Sid. So we ended up one Saturday night in Knoxville, Tennessee. And of course, us being rustlers and stupid, we knew that like the big stadium in Knoxville seats 105,000 people. Of course, they don't all just come from Knoxville. They come from all over. So all the hotel rooms are booked up. So after the show on Saturday night, following the game, of course, there's no hotel rooms. And we were going to stay over and make another town the next day and then head to Atlanta. Well, everything's full. Everything's full. Nothing. We finally found a hotel that ordinarily would rent for, back in those days, like $15 a night. It was $100 a night because everything else was full. You either took it or you didn't have a room for the night. And this room, we finally got in there and it had a black and white TV, some rats running along the floor. Oh my God, it was a horrible room. And we didn't get in about 2:00 in the morning. And I'm thinking, God, and we had to be in it to like 7. So somebody come up, the Sheik, this was his bright idea. So vicious. Let's go have a little drink. And they asked me, and I don't drink, but I said, yeah, I'll do anything just to get out of this damn room. So we left. Sid had rented a big, big car, big Cadillac or whatever he rented. And we took off. And most of the bars, the respectable bars, closed down at 2:00. It was already 2:30. And they were all closed. I said, oh God, I got to go back to that stinking ass room. But we finally found one of those after hours clubs where you bring your own booze. And we go in there, and all you do is when you go in there, you bring your booze with you and you just pay for the setup. That's how they legally get by with it. So, and I think we had some in the car or something, but we just wanted to go somewhere else. We would just pay for the Cokes, the setup without the liquor. So we went in there and it had a dirt gravel parking lot. And I've said this before. Guys, if you pull into a bar and it has a gravel driveway or a gravel parking lot, look out because you're in for trouble. So we pull in and we're trying to get parked. And a guy was up there talking to a woman in front of us and he wouldn't move. So we couldn't pull in. And finally Sid went, beep, beep, kind of rudely. And the next thing we saw come out the side window was this. F you. And the Sheik saw it. He went, oh my God, Sir Sid. Oh, Sir Sid, this is, jabroni. Very disrespectful. You need to slap him. So he got Sid all fired up, and Sid went up there, hey, you son of a bitch, move, you got blah, blah, blah. And the next thing I knew, Sid threw the punch through the window and the car took off. And he got back. Oh, Iron Sheik loved that. Oh, thank you, Sir Sid. You teach a jabroni a valuable lesson, not disrespect to Sir Sid. So we pull up right by the door. So we go in, and everybody knew us. Everybody. There's Dutch and there's Sid. Oh, there's Iron Sheik. And so they all just dispersed in the bar. So I stayed by the front door. I didn't even want to go back there. I just didn't want to stay in that room. So all of a sudden, here comes Sheik, and he's got this woman with him. And he puts her up against the counter right in front of me, really. And he's playing with her and he's kissing her and he had his hands on her breast, her little titties. And finally they're out of the dress. They're out of the bra and he's kissing on them. And I was kind of enjoying the show really a little bit. And finally a big fan walked by and he said, oh, there's the Iron Sheik. Iron Sheik, oh, I'm a big fan of yours, man. Hey, would you sign this? And he interrupted the Sheik when he was in Sheik's time. And Sheik, he just turned away from the woman, and he slapped that guy. It sounded like a damn 38 damn Luger going off. And then Sheik went back to her, and the guy he didn't know what to do. He was about halfway knocked out. And I've said this, I said his face looked like Chernobyl, like red. And there was a cop right beside him. He says, hey, did you see that? He slapped me. Did you see it? The cop went, man, I didn't see nothing. And he walked off. It's already about 3:30 in the morning. So, everybody's drunk as hell. So finally I see the guy take off, and I go find Sid. I said, Sid, we need to get out of here. I told him what had happened. And I said, the guy went to get his buddies, I guess. I don't know what he did. He may have, let's get out of here. Okay. Yeah. Right. So we go up, we grab Sheik, and we go out, and the car is right beside the door. And we look at the car, the whole back windshield is smashed in. And the guard says, oh, some guy come with a hammer and busted that windshield and said, if you come out, to tell you that you know who it's for. But who it was from, and who it was from was the guy he punched before we went in. So the guy just circled back around, busted the windshield out, and left. So I get in the front, Sid gets in the front. Sid and the girl and the woman, they get in the back seat with glass all over the seat, and we go back to the hotel. And then we finally catch about a 7:00 flight to Atlanta. It was too much. Crazy. And we was working every day. So, and that was in the middle. That was when I decided I need to jump ship and go with somebody else. The last 30 to, I was already 3 weeks or 4 weeks into this arrangement with Sid and Sheik. So I said, I need to change it. So I did change it. So I didn't spend the last 30 days with them, thank God.
At one point, Kevin Nash joined you, and that's his first road trip. And he tells a story where it's you three, and him, and he's just like, "What have I got myself into?"
So I don't remember him joining us though, but I remember joining him. I said, and Sid was, Kevin was very, very green. He had just started really. So I jumped in there with Kevin, thank God. Because, Kevin's a great guy to make a trip with because he's got all these stories and he's funny as hell. And, and that made if you travel in the wrestling business, and it's probably true with any other business too, if you travel with somebody, make sure they're interesting and they can talk to you and you enjoy talking to them. Because sometimes, if it's a miserable trip and if you don't enjoy who you're with, it can make a bad trip more bad, more miserable. So did Kevin say anything about the trip?
I think the story he said, he just went to the gym and Iron Sheik's doing the clubs. Sid is just jacked and you're in the waiting room reading a newspaper.
USA Today. Yeah. Oh yeah. We would go. And the reason I would even go, we had to check out the hotel. So, because if you stayed too late, they'd charge you another day. So they would go about 10 o'clock in the morning, 11, whatever. And then they'd all go work out. What am I working out for? I'm not in the ring. I'm just the manager. And I'd get my USA Today and I'd go up and find me a chair up front and I'd start reading the paper and watching them work out. Hey, they work out pretty hard too.
Let's talk about Sid's career then. So I don't know. I mean, you'll know this, I'm sure, but he was really a product of Memphis. So I don't know what he did in younger years. I just presumed he would have been like playing basketball or something, maybe. But there's not much information on his formative years. But
I don't remember him ever talking about playing basketball.
Well, what did he do? I presume he was an athlete in his younger years at some level.
I think he was a weightlifter, a bodybuilder. Because when I saw him, he was jacked. And he got more jacked later on. So he found out more. But he was a good athlete. He was. So, and he's 6'9", and he had a hell of a face on him. He looked like he was a psycho. I don't know why. Did he ever make any movies?
A couple of B movies, I think that's about it. Like not Wrestlers versus Zombies, but something like that. Some like B grade kind of thing. low budget.
Well, it amazed me that not a lot of he didn't get a lot of Hollywood work in the movies, because you can't make a face. He had the face already. He looked like he was crazy. And I don't know if he was crazy. People called him crazy, but he had the face for it.
Well, what was Sid like in real life then? So I know obviously Sheik was making it even more difficult than Sid was, I guess, on that trip. But I mean, I've heard from different people I've interviewed that, very intense, potentially quick to anger, great family guy, great family guy as well.
He did have a bad temper. What
would set him off then?
You couldn't, what we say, rib him. You couldn't rib him, because then he'd get pissed off. And then when the attention came back to the person who ribbed him off, it wasn't good. So, of course, like me, I take the path of least resistance. So I could tell if he was getting a little pissed off, and, I'd make a joke of it. And that's how I stayed out of a lot of fights. You don't piss guys off so they don't get mad at you. But, I've seen. See, Sid was also taking steroids. And steroids will make you very short-tempered. And especially when he didn't eat. When he got hungry, he got short-tempered. And I've seen people like, and he would holler at them, or just people he didn't even know. And but you could tell that I guess people say it's an anger issue, but he did have a short temper. Anything would set him off. And I don't care if it's a woman or a guy. It did set him off, and he'd go off.
I've also heard that, like unfailingly polite, really devoted family man and that kind of thing. So it's a real disparity between sort of home life and work life, I guess, in that sense.
I never met his wife, and I never met his son. I think his son is named Gunner.
Yeah, I think he's got 2 kids, and one of them's called Gunner.
Well, I remember the first one, but he never talked about him that much. He would talk about his wife every now and then, but yeah, I think he was a pretty devoted family guy. He really was, when he got away from wrestling.
Did he?
And you know what his other love was? We talked about it a little earlier this morning.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. Trust me.
Hey, are you censoring me?
Oh, no.
Folks, he is censoring me. I can't tell. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was, because that's exactly. Did he ever really love wrestling, or did he just treat it like a job like anything else?
Well, I don't think he loved it like some of the other guys loved it. I mean, that was their life. I don't think wrestling was his life. It was something he can make good money at, and that he was a natural for the look. I'm not saying he was a natural for the work, because he's 6'9". I mean, bigger guys can do less work and actually sometimes get more done and they just use their size. And he did that because it's always worked up to that point in his life, him being 6'9", and it probably kept him out of a lot of fights too. Somebody would look at his size and they'd back off, because when you guys 6'9", 320 pounds with no fat at all, if you just saw a picture of Sid, you might think he might be just 6'2", because he was, shaped that way. A lot of guys 6'9", you can tell they're tall just by looking at them. But if you just saw a picture of him by himself, not next to anybody, you wouldn't know how tall he was. But he had a great natural body. And I think he first gravitated toward the weightlifting gym part of it. And he fit right in. He had to be really, I think when he started, he said he was 160 pounds at 6'9". So he had to be a rail. And he started, and then he, like anything else, you start talking to other lifters and they tell you, well, you need to get a little bigger, and, but see, the more you work out, you just burn it up. But if you use anabolic steroids and you talk to somebody who's kind of knows what they're doing, yeah, it will work. See, I took anabolic steroids one time,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody told me you're supposed to work out with it. I just got fatter now.
You know, they did a test once, apparently, so I read years ago, that they gave people who worked out, like 4 different control groups, like 2 people who worked out, one on steroids, your groups, one group on steroids, one group without steroids working out, and then 2 groups, one without steroids, one with steroids, not working out whatsoever. And even the people who didn't work out at all still built muscle when taking steroids. So they say.
Even people who didn't use steroids at all?
No. I'm talking like people who didn't work out at all, if they were on steroids, would still build some muscle.
Oh, possibly, I guess. See, steroids were invented for recovery patients. Say somebody had been in a bad accident and they were having trouble regaining strength. They would just give them the steroids. That's how it started. Then, of course, with anything to do with bodybuilding, they're going to find out a way they can use this for their own purposes. And that's how steroids first started, I guess. But now the steroids are so advanced, I wouldn't even know if you came up to me and talked to me about it. I wouldn't even know what you're talking about. If it's beyond the steroids of the 90s, forget it. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, let's get back to Sid and his early run in wrestling, and it was in Memphis wrestling. So apparently he was discovered by Randy Savage and Lanny Poffo back in the day, and he was trained by Tojo Yamamoto.
Guess where he was found, probably?
In the gym, I guess.
In a gym, exactly. That's where they first saw him. And I heard this story, but they just said, wow, he looks like a wrestler. And of course, everybody in Memphis knew who the wrestlers were. We were the show in Memphis back in the day. It goes, it grabbed ratings that only primetime got. It got the same ratings that, say, Dallas would get. The old show Dallas, and that's when you had 3 networks. I'm not dating myself, but everybody knew the wrestlers because on Saturday morning, that's what all the kids lived for. Let's turn it on 11 o'clock in the morning and watch. And it was a live show. It wasn't taped or anything. It was live. So what you did, it went out there. I'm sorry, it was taped. It was taped on, I think, a Thursday and played on Saturday. No, it was a live show. Oh, Memphis was live. Yes. Yeah. Sure was.
So he's trained by Tojo Yamamoto, and his first months in the territory, he's Lord Humongous. I was thinking Lord Humongous from Mad Max and Jason the Terrible. It must be like the most overused characters in wrestling for a long time because there were so many different versions of it, I guess.
Well, this was before the days that people could claim intellectual property. People didn't even know intellectual property. They didn't know what the words meant. But now we even find out on this channel certain things you can't use because they have, what do they have on it? A patent or a
trademark.
A trademark, and we can't use it. So there are some, this is for the people that are listening, there's some things we would like to show, but we can't show because we can't show that we have permission to use it. And if you do it here on YouTube, they can be rather severe.
With that being said, how bad was Sid when he first started?
Well, he's probably no worse than a lot of other people when they start. You don't know what to do. You don't even know the purpose of, or even how it worked. Because at 6'9", he's not as good an athlete as, say, a guy who's 6'1". Because a guy 6'1" usually has more control over his arms and his legs. A 6'9" guy would be going everywhere. So, and I think explaining to Sid what we're trying to do, he probably understood it, but his body is unfamiliar with it. So like anything else, he has to take his time and he has to learn it. See, Eddie Graham, and I brought his name up quite a few times, he has said that it takes about 5 years for a newcomer to really learn the business and what's expected and how to get it over. And I thought about that long and hard. Yeah, it does probably take about, I'd say 4 years anyway. I mean, some guys are faster than others, but to really learn how to get a match over and get it working, because the fans, they know they've seen 1,000 or 2,000 matches, and they know when something doesn't work right, and they know a feeling you're trying to give them, and it takes a while. You are performing in front of a live audience, and that's why I always tell newcomers, listen to your audience. They'll tell you all you need to know if you know how to read them. And I call that reading the temperature in the room. If you go to the ring and the people are hot, they're going to be hot. So if they go to the ring and they're like looking at you, well, you got some work to do. So you got to warm them up. But if you take that temperature in the room, and you learn that whether somebody's teaching you that or not, you will learn that just by osmosis, just by being around it. So, and, everybody, I think when they start, they want to pop the crowd right away. It doesn't work that way. But Sid learned like everybody else, and I think he learned pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, he was very gifted physically. He had the face, he had the height, he had the body, he had the charisma. He just had natural charisma pretty early on. The wrestling would get better over time as well, and the Paters did choke slams and power bombs and that kind of thing, and entrances especially. Were you with Sid in the Fuller territory at the time, because he was working with Shane Douglas as his childhood friend? That I didn't learn until recently. He wasn't childhood friends; it was just story. But yeah, how was he in the Fuller territory? Because there's very little on that.
I think that's where he first started using Sid Vicious in that territory there. Because I had known him in Memphis as the Lord Humongous. And that's when I suggested the name Sid Vicious, because I've been reading about the Sex Pistols, that rock group in the UK. And Sid Vicious was a great name for him. And he came in with Downtown Bruno, what was his last name? Whipplestein, Harvey Whipplestein.
Well, he was Harvey Whippleman in WWF. But yeah, so Downtown Bruno managed him before the WWF, didn't he?
Yes. And he came in as I don't even know how he got in touch with them. I think I may have brought him up. I can't remember. It's been so long. But anyway, he made his way to Continental and did very, very well.
So he goes to WCW with fairly quick order. As I say, he's the wrestling isn't really up to snuff, but he was still very, very green at the time. But as I say, the look and the size and everything. And I believe he was getting paid very well. I don't know if this is a first contract or a second contract, but I think he was getting paid before he left the WWF in '91. He was getting paid like something like $400,000, which is huge money, especially for WCW at the time, which was cutting corners here, there, and everywhere. Now, I thought I'd run through this. You actually watched it previously, but we're going to do some narration on this one. Sid leaves everywhere on bad terms. So, he had everything going for him pretty much, Sid. Great promos as well, when they went right. Had great promos when they went wrong.
That's what makes that big money so important, because then you can leave. It's not like you're working hand to mouth. Make $400,000, you should save 200,000 of it or whatever, and somebody you don't like it, he'd take the walk, and that's what he'd do.
I'm going to give you a list.
Very unpredictable.
Well, I'm going to give you a list of Sid leaving everywhere on bad terms, but before we do, the first one has a story and a match behind it. So he left WCW. 1991, he was offered to go to the WWF for even bigger money and a promise of a WrestleMania main event, which he would have with Hulk Hogan later, but he decided to take WWF's big money offer in 1991, and he had to lose a stretcher match to El Gigante, which it must have been a curtain sellout, that thing. Should we cue it up and watch it?
Yeah, cue it up.
Can
we show this?
Yeah, why not? One sec. Playing.
And it's obvious to see he is not the real giant. That's according to height, anyway.
Jim Ross.
Oops, I haven't put us in there.
Vicious with momentum, could not move.
Look at that stride Sid's got.
Gee, I mean, Sid is like a legit, 6'8", maybe?
Yeah, well, he might be 6'8", 6'9".
Huge dude who was dwarfed.
And that Gigante, 7'5" or whatever he is.
Mm-hmm. He's hopping around and stuff like that. Did have some ability in his 20s. Sorry, we have to do the overlay for this one, by the way, so it's not as clear as normally it would be.
Was he Gigante was a basketball player before? Look at there. That's like a foot difference.
I think they claimed he was 7'7".
He was big. And see, most of those South American big guys, they couldn't move, but he did that pretty good. Oh,
gee, well, you
now,
say that.
This is anybody could have put this match together. Almost a first year guy, because look at that face. Oh my God, he had a hell of a face, and that was his money. Look at that bump. He's got him.
So this isn't the full match. So apparently WWE's version had to cut out about 90% of it. So keep in mind this is a stretcher match. So the loser has to go out on a stretcher, but for some reason the referee pinned him instead. And here's One Man Gang and...
Well, see, the one-man gang, and I forgot who else is in there too.
That's not Kevin Sullivan, is it? I thought it was like the
It is
Equalizer
Kevin. It is Kevin Sullivan. We just talked about Kevin Sullivan too.
We did.
He got him up there, and he couldn't hardly get him up. See, that one-man gang, that's the guy we need to get on the show, too.
Yes.
Boy, he was what a great talent. He just looks like a big, heavy-set guy, but, he's a great athlete. Oh, no, they're using the stretcher here.
Yeah, but Sid's already left, so apparently he just refused. Apparently he just refused to get on the stretcher before he left for WWF, I guess.
Well, all of a sudden, I think if it's a stretcher match, and there you go, Kevin. I would have suggested that first. And that's no. Kevin is strapping there like a blue tick hound.
What was that, a collar? Like a lead, like a dog lead?
Is that what it is? I thought it was I'm thinking it. And he should have stayed down. I tell you, he's so strong, even throwing things in his eyes won't keep him down. And they needed this last part because anybody, I don't know who booked that match, but whoever booked that match, they need to take that lead, that you call it, from Kevin Sullivan and be bullwhipped at sunup, whoever booked that match. Because... And you say Sid was leaving then?
Yeah, that was his last match before he went to the WWF. So I think that's why you refuse. Would you believe Sid refused to do a job properly?
I can't believe it. I can't. So, but anyway, he's leaving anyway. What are you going to do? They can't fine him. They can't take any of his money because it's not in his contract. They never told him about that before, so they couldn't do that. And I think Sid may have got up and just left on his own.
Yeah, apparently that's what he did, and he would do that again in his career. He would take the finish, and then he would just, get up, dust his hands, and just walk off like nothing happened.
Now, if you just came in on this at the very end of it, when you have Kevin and the one-man gang on Gigante, you would never known Sid was even in the match.
No, you wouldn't, would you?
Because he just takes every piece of evidence that he was even connected with that match. He's gone. So...
Oh, dear, I didn't even think of that, but yeah, he just disappears into a puff of smoke, doesn't he? Right, why don't I give you, because we'll do it in order, but something else with WCW is Sid just constantly, and maybe around the summertime, maybe around softball season, Sid would just, once again, like that match with El Gigante, just poof, just disappear. He would claim a neck injury. He's claimed neck injuries quite a lot in his career, I found. But yeah, how often would Sid not show up, or would he even give a reason sometimes?
Sid had an affinity and a love for softball. He loved that. So what he would do, and he didn't live in Memphis. He lived in I think West Memphis, Arkansas, which is right across the river. And that's where he grew up. And he loved softball, and he'd get all his friends together. I would like to say church friends, but it's probably not. It's just guys that he grew up with, and they played baseball, and they played in this little league and they all had bragging rights around the town or who had the best softball team. And I have heard of teams coming in as far away as Texas and Oklahoma to play them because it was that good. I mean, Sid was the manager. I guess he outfitted the team or whatever, bought them the shirts or whatever, and they did have a good team. So if Sid had a game, and it was an important game to Sid, because they didn't play like I said, I thought it was a church league. They don't play church league. They play like semi-pro softball players. These guys were pretty good. So when it came time, it was going to be a tough game. Sid said, "Whoop, I got a book. Got to get hurt. I got to get hurt. My neck. Then they would sometimes say anything. They'd say, "Well, we heard you played in that softball game." I didn't play. I was there. But I didn't play. They said, "Well, we heard you were there and you hit a home run." Well, I said, "Well, I did. I had to do it at the end because the other guy was hurt too, and I trusted myself." And he'd just wrap them up in, conversation, and they'd say, "Screw it." But he loved softball, and he would miss quite a few shots because he could miss. You know what I'm saying? When you're making big money, $400,000 back in those days, I guess it'd be like $2 million now, $1.5 million anyway.
No, maybe $1 million in 1990 equivalent, I'd say.
More than that. But I let's say $1 million, and it went a lot farther than $1 million would go today. If he didn't need the money, what are you going to do? Fire him? You can't fire him. You could, but at $1 million, he could have an attorney, and he would cost you more in attorney fees. And so Sid actually had him. I don't know who talked to him and got him in such a shape that he could just say, "No, you're not going to do anything. Talk to my attorney." And by the time they did that, it cost them more money, so they would just have to go along with Sid. So he was a pretty smart guy in business-wise, even though he did leave. And I wish he hadn't have done that, but it's nothing to me anyway. It was his career, so he knew what he was doing.
Would he leave for a day, or would he leave for like a week or a month?
I think Sid, he wanted to say he left for a weekend. Well, that'd be 3 or 4 shots sometimes. And he said, "Well, I told you I was hurt." And I think what he wanted to do was engage them in conversation. Then he'd turn it over to his lawyer. Then he'd just step out of it.
So you're saying that it actually got legal at times then?
Oh, yeah, it did. At least threatening to get legal. Because if you can back anybody like WCW up with their legal team and WWF back them up, yeah, you were accomplishing something.
I don't even know what the difference between baseball and softball is. I mean, is softball just underarm throwing or something?
It's the same rules, basically, but ball is just a softer ball and a bigger ball. It's what it is. And basically the same rules. And softball can be, you pitch it just up in the air. Unless you're playing fast pitch. You ever seen fast pitch softball?
No.
Wow. There used to be a guy called the King and his Court. And he was a fast pitch softball pitcher. And he would play with 4 guys. And they would go into a community and they would play their softball team with 9 players. And the King in his Court, he'd play with 4 or no more than 5, had a catcher, a pitcher, I guess a couple of outfielders, I guess, and that's 4, and he'd play 1 more player and maybe in the infield. But he was a fast pitch. So instead of just pitching the ball like this and letting it go up, he would come underarm and it'd be a 90 mile an hour fastball with a softball. And they weren't used to it and they couldn't hit it. I have heard that this guy, and he toured, it was like a little show, and they'd get X number of dollars to come in there and play the JCs or the Rotary Club or somebody. And he has struck out not the whole lineup, but if he faced 27 batters or 30 batters, he'd strike out about 22 of them, 23 of them. And of course, he was the draw. You would go, the fans that bought a ticket, they would come to see him play. And if their team got a hit off of him, it was a win. So look him up sometimes. I'm telling everybody, the king in his court, very famous back in the day. And now that brings up the question, I wonder, did Sid ever play the king? We should look that up. Because the king he was a king of softball. And he was great.
Apparently Sid tried to actually make a career of it after the WWF run in like 92 to 93 before he went to WCW. He tried to attempt to make a career out of softball somehow, maybe. I mean, is there much money in softball?
Well, I don't know.
Well, if you don't know, there probably isn't.
I never played softball for a living. I don't know whatsoever. I don't know anything about it. I know how to watch a game and understand it. That's about all I know.
Let's talk about Sid leaving on bad terms everywhere else. So, aside from constantly ditching for softball, he left the WWF in 1992. He failed a drugs test. Before WrestleMania 8, he still appeared at WrestleMania. What? Would you believe? I mean, more amazing, supposedly, that Downtown Bruno was providing some of the samples as well, but Sid still failed. So if you do interview Bruno, you need to ask him about that.
The Iron Sheik failed a drug test one time.
Oh, we've told that story before. Yeah, we've definitely told this.
You tested positive, Sheik?
Yes.
Oh, good, very good. He said, no, that's bad. No, positive is good.
And then they still paid him for 2 years. Unbelievable. With that being said, they still let him on the European tour. You know how he did like with El Gigante? He took the finish and then he just got up and left. He did the same to The Undertaker on the European tour as well. He'd take a finish. It was a DQ win or loss or whatever it was. Then he'd take the finish and just get up and leave. And then instead of being paired with Ultimate Warrior round the loop after coming back from suspension, he just quit. Instead, he also was fired, from WCW in 1993 after having a fight in the UK with Arn Anderson. Now, I know you know bits of it. I know you weren't there at the time, but did you hear any inside gossip after the fact of what caused it?
No, I heard about the same way it was reported. They were in the bar. What town was this in UK?
I don't know if it was like Birmingham or something like that, or London.
No, it was another
like
town. But he was in the bar, and they had this. I read about it. All the trips they were on, it'd be like 10-hour bus rides. Now, who in the hell books that? And when you get a bunch of guys that are big, like Sid and Vader, and a 10-hour bus ride will get anybody. And their tempers got, the tempers would flare, and Sid had a bad temper. And I heard that they were in a bar, and I think Sid said something about Ric Flair needs to get his old decrepit ass out of the way. Well, Rick at the time was Arn's friend, and he didn't like him saying it, so they got in an argument, and pretty heated argument in the bar of the hotel, and they went back to the room, and Sid, like we're saying, that he had a pretty hot temper. And he got to thinking about it, and he went down, and I guess he took a pair of scissors with him, I guess.
No. So the story is, I heard this today, so he actually went to Arn's hotel room with a chair to bash his head in. And then he whacked Arn with it, and then Arn had a pair of scissors.
Okay, that's the way it worked.
And then Sid disarmed Arn and then stabbed him.
That's the craziest fight I've ever heard of in the wrestling business. And I'm thinking, why would Sid have to have a leg off a chair to hit him in the head with? I mean, he was so much bigger. But again, that's the temper that we're talking about. He went back to his room. He had been drinking. He got to thinking about it, said, screw this, F him. And he went down to the room, knocked on the door, and he opened the door, and that's when he hit him with the chair. The chair leg, boom. And I don't blame Arn for getting something to defend himself with. And did he stab Sid?
Don't know if he stabbed Sid, but Sid certainly disarmed Arn and then stabbed Arn multiple times. Supposedly, I think Too Cold Scorpio was the one who may have broke it up. I think Vader, Big Van Vader at the time, put his finger in one of the stab wounds to stop the bleeding. Actually, inserted.
On Arn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard about that when it happened. And I hate that happened. I like both those guys. But that's what being tired, drinking, and arguing will do on a road trip. It just makes you insane. And those guys, apparently they reached that level. And it's also very, very lucky that somebody didn't die.
Yeah. So
I hate that.
Sid would be unemployed from the major companies for about 18 months, and then I believe it was the Clique who vouched for Sid to come back. Vince McMahon never wanted to deal with him again. Sid would come back, who would be Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, then he would be on his own afterwards. For the pretty much the entire year of 1995, he'd be with Ted DiBiase and his group. And then, disappeared at the end of 1995. Once again, he claimed he had a neck injury. And then Vince once again swore off him that I'd never use him again. And then 6 months later, Ultimate Warrior was fired. It's one of those things that I'll never use him again.
I'll never use him again. I've heard that so many times. Yeah. I'll never use that son of a bitch again till business drops. And he's saying, who? And then Sid is saying, I'll never work for that damn bastard Vince McMahon again. Until they each one of them needs the other one. And after Vince said that, Sid said that, and somehow a call is made from one of them. Sid, please, Vince. And there's Sid. Hey, Vince, how you doing? Well, I may have something for you. Yeah. Then it just, that's all it takes. 15 seconds on the phone. Now they're not mad at each other because money is involved. Now they can make amends and overlook whatever happened.
Well, he wasn't paying Ultimate Warrior anymore, so there was some, money in the purse to give to Sid. He replaced Ultimate Warrior, and then he kept on. He won the WWF title twice, once, both in sort of weird circumstances, because it was originally going to be Vader. This was the same Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden. Were you in the prelims there, managing Bradshaw at the time? End of 96, shortly before you were let go.
What happened? Who was in the main event?
It was Sid and Shawn Michaels. It was the same show that The Rock debuted as well.
I may have been on that, and I don't remember. No,
anyway, Sid.
I was there when they had the big get together in the ring.
Oh no, this was about 6 months afterwards.
Okay,
so
I don't think I was there then.
No, okay then. So Sid was getting cheered, and he hits Jose Lothario, who was managing Shawn Michaels at the time, with a TV camera. It was a very busy finish for the time period, especially. And Sid was getting cheered. And Vince McMahon was seething, annoyed, angry that basically Shawn Michaels had been turned on by the fans.
That just goes to show you, the fans are unpredictable. You don't know what they're going to do.
Especially like Northeast fans as well, I suggest.
Well, you could predict them about 90% of the time. But with Sid, he had that crossover appeal anyway. People wanted to cheer him. They were probably sick of Shawn Michaels and Jose Lothario. That was his manager.
Yeah, that was a weird pairing.
That was. But, the story behind that is Lothario trained him and helped him get in. And that's why.
Apparently, Shawn didn't treat him very nicely either at the time.
What did he do?
Well, Shawn would just, yell and scream at him and that kind of thing. And it only lasted 6 months, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or maybe even taking the spotlight from Shawn at the time. Who knows?
That's one of the things that you let the fans go however they're going to go. So if they see they were cheering Sid, don't fight them, because they will not only kill the character, they'll kill your TV show. Because if you expect him to get booed and he's getting cheered, you put him out there as a bad guy. That doesn't look good. And it'll kill your business. When the fans take over a show, that's a promoter's nightmare.
So he would be released again mid-1997, claiming a neck injury yet again, and he was never brought back to the WWF. He would make a couple of shots in the WWE in 2012. So, he also won the belt a second time under weird circumstances where Shawn Michaels lost his smile, he gave up the belt, you know the story. And then Sid somehow found himself in the main event with The Undertaker, and the pay-per-view absolutely bombed. So, next up is Sid Rumours. And there's a few that I want to bring up to you, and you tell me if you've heard about them or witnessed them or whatever else. And the first one is Sid had, I don't think it's a rumour, I think it's pretty well documented, this one, to be honest, but he had a fight, or a confrontation at least, with Brian Pillman in a packed bar that ended with Sid brandishing a squeegee at Brian Pillman.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah. A dangerous squeegee. Oh, you could get wiped out by that.
Oh, yeah. Clean your clock with that.
I did hear about that. What caused that?
Sid, he went straight. I'm not even sure he was with the company at the time. I think this was after you left WCW, so I don't even think Sid, he may have been with the WWF, and they happened to be in the same place. And he went straight up to Brian Pillman and said, "You're too small to do anything in this business, da-da-da-da-da." So Sid totally started it. He had a triceps injury at the time, so he couldn't really fight. And then Brian Pillman didn't back down. So Sid left the bar, went to his car, and the most threatening weapon he could brandish was a squeegee. And he was apparently disarmed by Mike Graham.
I did hear about that, but hey, Pillman was pretty raunchy. Pillman would fight you. So, but again, the question is, why would Sid need anything, to tell you the truth? I mean, he's got at least almost a foot on most guys anyway. Not a foot, but he's got 9 inches on him anyway. So why would he need a weapon? And to me, when I heard a squeegee, when I first heard the story, what year did this happen?
Oh, probably like 91. He may have still been with the company. He may have just left. I don't know. But also around this time, he claims that he injured Brian Pillman on purpose during a War Games match where he powerbombed him. And you know the War Games cage had a roof. Yeah. So when he did the powerbomb, there wasn't enough room for Pillman's head, so he landed awkwardly. And then afterwards, apparently, Sid claimed he did it on purpose.
Well, now Sid sometimes could be his own worst enemy. He really could. So, but that's when I think I always attributed that to the steroids. It would just make him crazy out of his mind. So, and I tried to stay away from guys like that because you didn't know how they would react in certain situations.
Here's a couple more. Sid, and this one was floating around the internet for years. Sid once put a ferret in his trunks as a bet.
I don't know. I never heard. I did hear that, but I didn't hear that. See what I mean?
Did you hear that on the internet like fans did? I mean, that was never anything in the locker room that you heard at the time, was it?
I don't think it happened. Who would put a ferret in their trunks?
Sid? Maybe?
No, I don't think he'd even do it.
Okay. And the last of the rumours is Sid once shit his trunks in the WrestleMania 13 main event. Did you ever hear that one?
Never heard that, but I've heard a lot of people staining their drawers in matches. Maybe not in WrestleMania 13. And that is possible.
Yeah, and the match was the shits.
That's why you try to wear, if you think you're going to mess in your pants, wear dark colored trunks. Don't wear white because it would stooge you off right away.
Okay, we'll get through a few more of Sid's stuff that we have to. He was the only man during the Shockmaster debut that actually tried to stay in character and try and save the segment. I wanted to bring up that.
Nothing could save that.
Oh, God,
I don't think if Sid brought out a banjo and did a tap dance, nothing was going to save that. When he went through that wall, that was it.
Sure. Do you know, this isn't... It sort of is about Sid. I was mentioning the Survivor Series 96 main event. It was meant to be Vader in the main event there with Shawn, and he was the one who was going to win the WWF title. But I believe Shawn and Vader had an issue, and I believe it revolved around Vader just being too stiff with Shawn. Did you remember this happening at the time? This was mid-96.
I remember it, but I didn't put a See, I've never been a dirt sheet writer. A dirt sheet reader, because I didn't put a lot of stock in that. And I don't know if Sean didn't want to do it with Vader. They ended up putting Sid over, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, and that to me showed how much, if it was even partially true, how much power that Sean held over Vince. Because if he went to Vince and said, I'm not doing it. So if your top guy tells you, I'm not going to do it, and you said, oh yeah, you're going to do it. No, I'm not. Because he had made Sean a lot of money too. Sean didn't need the money. These guys, sometimes when you pay them money, that's the worst thing you can do, because now they can do what they want to do, whether you want it or not. See, the Ultimate Warrior showed that. Steve Austin showed that. That no, I'm gonna take a walk, and I don't care what you do. So do it without me, and believe me, doing it without them is a tremendous job of doing a harder job than doing it with them. So, and if he walked out, what are you going to do?
So, are you ready to watch a couple of Sid's most memorable on-camera segments and promos?
And listen, hey, I love Sid. So this is supposed to be a tribute to Sid. Now we're going over his career, but
we give the worst tributes. I mean, that one you gave Vladimir Pietrov last week, it was a shocker. I'm sure your tribute was like, I'm sure he was a nice guy in real life, but he was the worst wrestler I ever wrestled, and here's how much he stank.
Oh, well, he was terrible. So, listen, I'm sworn to one thing on this podcast. Tell the truth as I see it. It may be wrong. Maybe the way I see it may be wrong, but Pietrov, between him and Brockus, I was in easier street fights. Seriously. And against Pietrov, I almost wanted to leave. And the finish hadn't happened. I said, I'm going to leave and say he hurt me. I should have done it.
You should have disappeared like Sid did in that El Gigante match.
What I should have done, I'm way behind the times. I should say he hurt me, lay outside the ring, have them bring the gurney, put me on it, and take me to the back. Everybody saw it because he hurt me in the ring. Let me pick up my check for about 2 years and do nothing.
Yeah, you and Iron Sheik. Right, so let's tee up some videos. Just give me 1 second, I'll sort them out. Okay, so I need to just turn down the volume a little bit. This is just 2 different ones that I think may have happened on 2 different nitros that I just love.
Oh my! What happened to my car? Go back!
Somebody. Goldberg flattened his car.
Sid's fantastic, you know that.
Space 22. 22. 22! Oh, man! Oh,
22. What's the word? Look at there.
Goldberg! Where are you? Why
How many times did he do this?
At least twice in 2 nitros. Brilliant. That's brilliant. And,
It sure is.
Okay, let's go to Sid's 2 most famous blunders.
Look at that face.
Oh, it's money.
That face, really. A mother couldn't warm to that face. Does he look like a serial killer or what? That's what I thought he should have played.
Well, he had the Psycho music in WWF for a while.
Well, they named him right. Psycho Sid. He looked like a psycho.
Thing is, he had the music, yet he was a babyface. And I don't even think he meant to be a babyface. He's almost like Jeff Hardy. He's just so damn likable that he just gets hot on his own. You don't even have to do anything. He just has to be there.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's play this.
Sid, I've got a question for
This
you.
is your
We all
favorite.
know that you can bring the heavy offense, but there are a lot of skeptics that think that perhaps you can't take it, that you can't take the punishment that Diesel will give you tonight. How do you address those skeptics?
Well, the skeptics and all the people have a little bit of... Let me do this again.
Oh, it's live, Hal.
Sorry.
It's live, pal. Oh my God. That's a Jim Ross special right there. It's live, pal.
Here's the other one.
yes! You can wear any Halloween costume you want to, but you know and I know that you are only half the man that I am. And I have half the brain that you do.
It's just, you can see how hard Kevin Nash is laughing behind a mask.
Laughing like hell. Like, you have half the brain. I have half the brain you do. Oh, that is hilarious. But it's, hey, again, we found out just for these last two clips that live at TV didn't do much for Sid.
No, I'll tell you what, he did some great pre-recorded interviews, though. He did some pretty good live ones as well. It's just that we focus on, like the howlers, the bloopers are all-time greats.
Well, they'll be on almost anybody. The bloopers are really better than their real work because they get it all wrong, get all screwed up. But Sid did do a good interview when he wanted to.
Yeah. We'll end up on a couple more Sid things and we'll do the rest of the news. So Sid's leg break, we're not going to watch that. I keep seeing stills of it. It's upsettingly hideous.
Oh, I cannot watch it either. I'm glad you did that because, you could show it, but I wouldn't watch it.
No, I'm not watching it because if I'm squeamish, as you know, I'm very squeamish with leg injuries especially. But it took him 6 years to recover. To actually get back in the ring and have a match. And he didn't have matches like he used to have matches, they were just like indie matches. Quick in and out kind of affairs. John Laurinaitis is apparently the one to blame. He said, Sid, you must do this off. It wasn't even off the top rope. I think it was off the second rope. And it was like a one-legged kick. So he kicked with one leg, land on the other. And that's what caused it to snap.
That even sounds bad.
Yeah. Rob Van Dam used to do it all the time, but he never broke his leg. But Sid's, 9 inches taller. Yes, God knows how much heavier. But
Sid told them he didn't want to do that.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Yep.
And no, you got to do it. You got to do it. And end up breaking. It's like if you took the cigar and you just broke it a 90-degree angle. Not quite, but almost. And if anybody hasn't seen this, be warned because it's one of the most brutal things I've ever seen in wrestling.
Yeah. So in later years, I've told you once or twice, Dutch, that I thought, let's get Sid on as a guest. I think he'd be a great guest. And I think, we know more now that he was dealing with cancer for several years. So I guess, he was making podcast appearances as late as a month ago. Mm-hmm. But you tried to get in touch with him and he was just off the grid. Is that right? Did you have like an old number for him?
I had a number. And I'm going to have a guy on here soon, downtown Bruno, Harvey Wimpleman. That was his manager. They kind of found each other when both of them were first starting. And Bruno didn't even have a number on him. And they lived not that far apart over there in Mississippi, right outside Memphis. But I think Bruno, what he told me, that he hadn't talked to Sid in a while. And you would think, listen, I'm reading here the other day, when the news hit, his son put it out. I think his son is named Gunner. Mm-hmm. And his son put it out that Sid had passed away and he had a brain cancer. Was that it?
Right. So it was only announced as cancer. Maybe have been brain cancer, but I don't want anyone to quote me of saying, it was definitely that. I just heard through the grapevine it might have been that.
And and when I read it, was the first I'd heard anything about it. I don't even think Bruno, and I was talking to him like 6-8 months ago. And when you get cancer, it just doesn't come up and kill you right away. You should know you have cancer months and months, if not years in advance. But Bruno didn't say anything about it unless he just kept it, unless Sid just kept it quiet. And that sounds like in Sid's style. If you don't need to know, you don't need to know. And I think he kept that quiet. And I didn't know anything. I didn't even know he was sick. And I think most people didn't know that either. But it finally got him at 63. And I saw a picture of him not too long ago. It looked like he'd lost a considerable amount of weight, but he still looked like Sid. he still, he had a shirt on. You couldn't tell what the body looked like, but he still looked like he was in fairly decent shape. And of course, I don't know when this picture was taken, but I'm going to say I think within the last 6 or 8 months. I think.
So there's one more thing I wanted to bring up, because I wanted to book him, and I was like, I'd heard reputation that he was just too flaky. Whether you gave him a booking appearance or not, it was never a guarantee he'd show up. And apparently Sid was banned from wrestling in New York. This was post WCW, I think, because he had no-showed so many bookings that he had been advertised for in advance that the New York State Commission just said he can turn up to shows, but you can't advertise him anymore because he was just so flaky.
So you can't even advertise he's going to make an appearance.
Yeah, in the state of New York, no, you couldn't.
The way I read it was you can't advertise he's going to have any kind of a. You could advertise he's going to be making an appearance. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I messed it up. Apparently, you couldn't advertise him being on a show in advance because there was no guarantee he'd turn up. So one last question I'll ask you about Sid, then we'll move on to the news, and I think it's an interesting one, because as we've looked at before, there are 6 different instances where he was either fired or let go or quit in weird circumstances. Sid, I guess, he could have been an even bigger star, but he was getting in his way rather with, wanting to do softball, or just didn't want to do stuff. And, that's his prerogative. And, he'd just rather be a family man. So it wasn't exactly, for the wrong reasons that he was not a bigger star in that sense, because there are more important things in his life. But I do think, one, could Sid have been a bigger star? And 2, was Sid a big draw, in your opinion, in the history of wrestling?
Sid was a big draw. If they handled Sid right, put him over like the psycho he truly portrayed, and did a very believable job. And the example I use is you're walking down a semi-lit back alley at night, and all of a sudden you see somebody looking like Sid standing there by himself looking at you. What are you going to do?
Shit my pants.
No kidding. And you're going to go the other way? Yeah, I would think. So that's the prerequisite I used to say, is he a good heel? Because if you're looking at him, and I think when you first see Sid looking at you, even in a bar, if he's sitting at the end of it and he's looking at you and you're looking at him, I think you have some trepidation about whether to even say hello to him, because you don't know. He's not brimming with friendliness. So I think you'd be afraid of him, because that's what wrestling is. When you see a heel come down the aisle, you're going to have a preconceived notion about what they're like in real life. That I wonder, is he really like that? And Sid, it's very easy to him to portray a dangerous individual. And that's exactly what you want him to play in that ring. Because if he goes up against one of your favorites, well, you want your favorites to beat him, but you're not so sure. That's what makes wrestling what it is today. Sometimes it's not what is said, it's what is portrayed and what is presented to you, even without words. I think Sid is the type, you don't even need words to talk about him. But I'd like to say one thing to Sid's family, his wife and his son. Condolences to the family. Sid, I made a lot of trips with him. I always got along with him. He was crazy sometimes, but not crazy out of the blue. But he was just and he was a fun guy to be with. And he did have a soft heart in his spot, a soft spot for. I saw a kid that went out to the ring with him, and he had Down syndrome?
Yeah, he was a neighbor of Sid's, and he was a big wrestling fan that he bonded over.
It took him on TV.
Actually took him on WCW TV and managed him for one night, yeah. He was even on USWA TV in 95, so he brought him on more than once.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that shows he has a soft heart for people that sometimes don't get a fair shake in life. And sometimes you judge people on that. Sid was very family oriented, like you said. And I know he loved his son because he used to talk about his son all the time, and his wife too. So my condolences to them. And Sid, I'm glad I knew you, and I'm glad I was your friend. He's been to my house lots of times. So, and basically, as a guy, I love Sid. Good guy, and he could do whatever he did. But I always just dismissed it by saying, "Well, that's Sid, and you either took it or you didn't take it." And that's what we got.
As a fan, I'll briefly say Sid in many ways embodies everything that's right with wrestling. He was huge. He was a freak. Memorable interviews, huge charisma, imitable.
The face.
Yeah, the face. And yeah, in a lot of ways, Sid is everything that is right with pro wrestling and a lot of things that are sort of forgotten about what is right about pro wrestling. And I defy pretty much anyone as a fan to watch pretty much any performance of Sid and not leave afterwards with a smile on your face. Whether it went right, whether it was a great match, whether it was a terrible match, or anything in between, Sid was memorable.
And you never saw Sid out of shape. Mm-hmm. Ever. Because he would go and he would kill himself. He would kill himself in the gym. And he was driven to take a kid from West Memphis, Arkansas, and for him to go as far as he went. Of course, the size took him, but I think he put West Memphis on the map, and he was a good representative of that town.
So rest in peace, Sid Udy. So we will move on with the rest of the news. And to be honest, it's not really very much news because you didn't watch All In. I did watch All In, amazingly. Me and a mate, we sat down. I actually ordered the pay-per-view because it was at a not on godly hour for once, because usually pay-per-views on United States time is in the middle of the night for us, so I never watch them live. But Bryan Danielson, of course, won the title, and then on Dynamite,
that's what you said. Oh, go ahead.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, you were going to bring it up. You did say that.
I did say that. I said Bryan Danielson. I'll never get that right. Should go on and say the person who defeats me for this belt will also be the person who retires me from full-time competition, which is basically what he said. So I like to think I'm booking AEW now.
They had a hell of a match, I heard.
Yep. Did you watch any clips or anything or any surprises that you heard? I can just give you my very brief opinion of the show because I wasn't fully paying attention. I was chatting a lot as well.
Give me your impression.
The best match of the night. In fact, I'm just going to get them all up. AEW 2024. I won't make a clip out of this because it's not really worth it. But let me just get the match up. Do bear with me. So I didn't watch the dark matches or the pre-show matches. The ladder match at the beginning, 4-way ladder match. I don't know about you, Dutch, but the Extreme Stunt Show matches, unless you're there in the arena, for me, I've watched a million of them. They sort of all run together for me, so I didn't really pay attention.
I hate ladder matches. I hate being in them because the only one who believes some of that stuff on the ladder is you. Is the person getting hurt.
Well, the thing is, when you're in a stadium and you know what I mean? You're looking up 100, 200 feet in the sky and you're still seeing people, and then you're thinking, well, he's only 8 feet. And the ladder's really short for some reason in this as well. So
I hated ladder matches. They put me in a scalpel match when I was in Memphis about a whole week. They booked me, even in the small towns, they put a scaffold match. And in Memphis, it was okay, but you were up about 20 feet. And I hate getting 6 inches off the ground. I hate that. So I was with Dundee, who used to be in the circles, and he was up on the ladder, and it was a ladder going across the ring. And they had some scaffold there that it was anchored to. It was pretty sturdy, except you could fall off either side. So I didn't want to be, I told them, I don't want to be in this ladder match at all. But they put me in it anyway, and put me in there with Dundee, who was like a damn circus freak. And he was bouncing up and down on it. So I got through that. Then as the week went on, the scaffold, it got lower and lower. And finally in Evansville, I was like 6 feet off the floor. they put two ladders and put the damn the other ladder or whatever they had on top of that. But I was still 6 feet off the mat of the ring mat, and I didn't even like that. So, but I went through a whole week like this, especially for you fans. I did it because they advertised it. And I told Jerry Jarrett, God rest his soul, that I didn't want to do it. Well, because I think he invented the match, scaffold match.
Was it invented in Memphis?
I think so. I think Jerry Jarrett invented it.
I'm going to be okay, right, everybody. If that's not true, or if it is true, write in the comments, because I'd be interested to know who invented the match, scaffold match. Next one, Mariah May, Timeless Tony Storm. It was just a bit odd, a bit weirdly paced. There was one bit where there was a middle-aged woman in the crowd, and we all assumed it wasn't. We didn't understand, right? So Mariah May goes and punches this woman. It was established briefly earlier on that she was sat there, so we sort of assumed she was Tony Storm's mother, right? And then Mariah May hits her, and then afterwards, Timeless Tony Storm goes and confronts who we thought was her mother. It wasn't Tony Storm's mother. It was Mariah May's mother afterwards that we discovered. So we were all like, huh?
Okay, so, who punched who? Mariah May
punched her own mother. And no one could work out who she was. They didn't really establish who she was, but...
Isn't that backwards?
Yes. So anyway, Hook defeated Chris Jericho for the FTW Championship. The other bits of it, they were all right. And I'll tell you what, the biggest pop, of course, was for Taz, who came out and interfered at the end. The Young Bucks defeating FTR and the Acclaimed was really good, I thought. And I know it's not popular to praise the Young Bucks, but I thought the Young Bucks were excellent in it. And also, they did something that I actually thought MJF was going to do later, and he didn't do it, then he did do it. And this is something that you've mentioned, and it's something Stevie Richards has mentioned recently as well, is when someone thinks, oh, I'm going to get the pin, I've hit my finisher, and then they kick out at 2.9, and then the wrestler who was doing the pin turns around and goes, really exaggerate for ages. The Young Bucks didn't do it. Everyone was like, oh my God, he kicked out, and then he went straight into the next move. And I thought, actually, that's really good. So, I thought, that's my point.
I missed it.
Oh, the Young Bucks didn't do that.
Oh,
They did not do the exaggerated thing. They just moved into the next move.
I hate that. That's the most overused facial expression. Like, how could he have kicked out? Wouldn't you be trying to pin him again, really? I don't know.
That's exactly what the Young Bucks did. Anyway.
That's nitpicking, but that's what we do here. We can nitpick.
Yeah.
Hey, look. It's moving.
Oh, if you move too far, it will get stuck.
I think it's a cigar. No.
Yeah. Christian Cage, the Casino Gauntlet match, I thought was the best match of the night because it's just like a Royal Rumble. There was just a new person every minute, so that was a lot of fun. And
I hate Royal Rumbles.
Oh, I love a Royal Rumble. They're my favourites.
They need a few more rules than that or something.
With next match, Will Ospreay and MJF. Great match, as you would expect. MJF, I want to say one thing. He had the whole, because you're in London, he turned up in the Lex Luger USA, Lex Luger Express kind of red, white, and blue trunks, all American, the top hat like Apollo Creed. But Tony Khan, sorry, this isn't MJF criticism, this is a Tony Khan criticism. They didn't spring for Living in America by James Brown. Rocky IV.
Why?
I don't know. It would have been perfect.
Well, he pays for it anyway, right?
Nope. No, this would have been a one-off. Living in America.
Okay. Could they play that if they had wanted to?
If they paid for it, I guess, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Tony Khan didn't pay for it. Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker was a bit of a disaster because they were in the death spot anyway because they had to follow Will Ospreay and MJF.
I think both those girls, they're not the best that AEW has. I think Toni Storm is, but even though you said she turned in a disappointing match.
It was weirdly paced, that one. I think they could put on a more entertaining match. And to be honest, I don't think it needed to go 15 minutes. And Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker did not need to go 17 minutes.
Well, I don't think there's that much heat between them with the fans. There may be heat between them individually. They may not like each other, but the fans have to feel that. So if I'd have been watching that match, I'd have went up and it'd been my concession stand match.
Yeah. Well, with MJF and MJF reportedly, you know how it goes. You never really know, but had an issue with Britt Baker. I'm wondering if he was laughing his tits off backstage, thinking we've just killed off the crowd for Britt Baker's match. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they have a feud, of course. Now, Jack Perry.
I don't care what kind of match they would have in front of Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné. I think it was dead from the get-go.
And they pushed that story for a month straight. That was like one of the few matches that had a long build as well. Like probably more TV time dedicated to that than anything else.
But the person who is orchestrating the build, if you don't feel this internally, it's not going to go. Yeah. I didn't feel it at all. Did you feel it?
No, not really. 2 more matches, Jack Perry and Darby Allin. I was enjoying it.
How was that? How was that?
It was quite short, and Jack Perry won clean. But it was like really clean as well, and it was like a coffin match. So I was, gearing up for tons of stunts and stuff like that. It was just over 10 minutes. Maybe they had their time cut. I don't know. But it sort of just abruptly ended. Sting came out to rescue Darby Allin as well, which was nice to see him. And then, of course, Bryan Danielson defeated Swerve Strickland by submission. Okay, there was a couple things I wanted to mention about this. It had a weird ending because Adam Page got involved because he's still feuding with Swerve Strickland. It was still a really, really good match, of course, huge emotions and Bryan Danielson winning. But Adam Page didn't need to be there. I know they were setting up him versus Swerve, but the fact is that if they were going to have Adam Page interfere, instead of trying to get into the ring for Swerve Strickland, what should have happened was Swerve Strickland's manager, Prince Nana, should have interfered, and then Adam Page take out the manager to then even the odds. That would have made more sense. But then he was just trying to go for Swerve and sort of ruin the match in that sense.
You need to call Tony Khan and say, Tony, look, and tell him giving your impression of the overall show, and tell him he needs to listen to some of these podcasts a little more often.
Yeah, I'm the world's
But when they announce that this will be Bryan Danielson's last match, if he doesn't win, well, that tipped the finish off.
Yeah, but you say this sometimes. Slap them in the face with it. You promise me something, and you follow through with it, and that's how you booked as well.
Well, he did. Yeah, that's right. So that's why I knew that he was going over, because now you got all these TVs. If you want to rebuild it or come back and revisit it. Now, what do you say? Swerve beats him for the title, and then he has to retire. Make sense?
Well, I don't think Darby Allin's going to be winning, but he's got a number 1 contenders match against Bryan Danielson. So he's not going to win, I hope anyway. And Christian has also got a shot at the title as well, so I don't know if they can main event a pay-per-view with either of them.
I don't watch AEW anymore. What happened to Edge?
Oh, he's still injured. He jumped off that cage. He'll be injured for a good 4 to 6 months.
Who talked him into that?
He probably... Well, who talked Sting into jumping off ladders and stuff?
I think Sting talked himself into that.
Well, that's what I think Adam Copeland did. I think, well, everyone else is doing this. I need to do it as well. I think people talk themselves into some big-time stunts they don't need to do in that company.
Well, what are the odds he'll do that move again anytime soon? Or Sting?
I'd say, well, Sting's retired, and Adam Copeland, I think, might have learnt his lesson. But he could have been like Sid. He could have like Sid there because he fractured his shin bone.
No kidding. Anything that was suggested to me about me throwing my body off a 15-foot ladder, I ain't done it. I'll walk out even if I hadn't made any money. I said, nope, I'm gone. I'm not going to get out of here, because the fans will remember that for 10 minutes?
Not even that.
But you'll remember it the rest of your life. Yeah.
Not even that. Gangrel debuted for AEW straight after that, so he was the big reveal. So no one even remembered the Edge jump.
See? Well, you don't think they remembered it for 10 minutes?
No. We're only talking about it now for the wrong reasons.
No. And I don't get that anyway. You take this big bump, you're old guy, That don't show nothing to the fans, really. It's just they've seen it 100 times with these younger guys. You think your status is going to be improved with the fans because you do a younger guy move, and the fans remember. I say 10 minutes. You say not even that, but he's going to remember it the rest of his life. So.
One more thing about AEW. I don't remember what I've got after this. Will Ospreay. So, my editor sent me this. He found it hilarious. I looked at it. I found it hilarious too. Do you remember some time ago, Dutch, that there was a lot of copyright striking of YouTube channels and Twitter accounts that happened to be posting AEW botches? Do you remember this about a year ago? Stevie Richards was a victim.
I do remember that. That's why I asked a little earlier, can we show that? Because of that reason. But, what did we show? We showed the Sid stuff.
Right, here's the thing. Like WWE are far more reasonable. The thing is, AEW have no basis any of copyrighting this stuff. On Twitter, maybe, but on YouTube, they don't, because it's for the purpose of criticism or review. Here's the thing, though. Will Ospreay himself posted a video, and with the caption it said, "That felt so good." Here's the problem.
What was the move?
No idea. Because AEW and Don Stevens copyright struck Will Ospreay for showing a video of his own company of himself.
That makes absolutely no sense. Now I wonder, did Will Ospreay inquire as to why they did that? And what did they tell him, you think?
Well, not publicly, but I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand the whole thing of the whole copyright striking to censorship kind of thing.
I don't understand that either. By God, I'm writing Tony Khan today, and I'm going.
You've got his number. Text him.
I will. He texted me. I told you he texted me about a year ago.
Oh yeah. Oh, he called you, didn't he? Or did he text you?
He called me one time. That's longer. And then he texted me the last time, I think.
Text him back and say that we want to book, and say that we have extraordinarily high prices.
Yeah, I want him to book us. I want to come see you. So I'm going to tell him to book me next year on a UK show. What is this show called? All In, not All In, but what do they call this show in UK?
Oh, yeah, that was All In.
Okay.
But they're doing Forbidden Door here next year now, and then All In is going to be in Texas next year.
I don't get it.
No, I don't. Well, the thing is, I think it's like you can't keep going to the same stadium year in, year out, because they saw...
But didn't he have one whole
drop.
side that was massively empty in this one?
I'll tell you what, from the camera angles they used, and, there were people in the top decks and everything, it didn't look that empty. I mean, you could see a lot of red chairs here, there, and everywhere, but even with 50,000 people in, it still looked pretty darn full.
Yeah. Well, it should. It's 50,000 people.
Yeah, it didn't look unimpressive.
What was the gate this year compared to last year?
Okay, best I can tell, it was fairly similar to last year, because even though they had like a 40% drop in attendance, something like that, the ticket prices were a lot higher.
Yep.
So,
Well, good for them.
Yeah, absolutely, good for them. We're going to move to WWE. And someone I don't remember if we've talked about before. I think we probably have, but anyway. So this is to Chris Van Vliet when he was asked about his last match and if he would ever return. Dave Bautista said the following. I did know... I'm sorry, he actually, just to preface this, says... he's talking about did he know that his last match was going to be his last, which is WrestleMania 35.
I did. I just didn't tell anybody else. And then
Nobody.
Because I didn't want it to be I didn't want it to be a big ordeal. I didn't want to... go out and do the tour and give a speech. I wanted to have my match, and I wanted to call it a career, so I wanted to go out on my own terms.
Is
It
that
was
how
the
it
way I
works?
wanted to go out. This is like a dream for me. This is why it's so perfect. It's such a romantic way. And wrestlers don't get to choose the way they go out.
Yeah.
I did. I went out on my own terms, the way I wanted, with the guy I wanted to go out with.
Yeah.
And I will never tarnish that. It's not that I don't miss it.
Yeah.
I miss the crowd. I miss the energy of the crowd. I dream about walking out and hearing my entrance music. But I know if I do that, I will just tarnish my storybook ending, and I'm just not willing to do it.
It's quite a quite refreshing comment from Batista there.
Well, I like his answer. He knew it. Nobody else knew it. And he can look back on that. He finally found a match that met his criteria for a last match, and he stayed with it. Now, as long as he doesn't have another one, which he said he's not going to have, but we've heard that a lot of times. But I think with Batista, I think he has a little bit of credibility with the fans. And if he says he's not going to have another one, I don't think he's going to have another one. So if he's happy with that, I'm happy with him. And people can look back on his career, and that's his last match, and be pleased with it and happy with it.
You know his last run in 2014 when you were with the company during Zeb Colter, with the Zeb Colter thing. Apparently he turned back up to WWE because even though he had like a great Hollywood career at that point, Guardians of the Galaxy, etc., he was basically bankrupt. So that's why he ended up going back.
He was bankrupt.
Yeah, basically he just run out of money. So he needed to go back to wrestling and top it up.
Again, I'm going to go back to this. I can see running out of money. But with the career he had, and he ran out of money, where'd it go? You don't know? I don't know either. So
some expensive taste, that boy, clearly.
And I never sat down with him. I said hello to him and maybe 100 words, how you doing, and blah, 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 blah. But, and Dave Batista lives in Tampa. He doesn't live that far from me, but I've never run across him. But from what I hear, he's a pretty good guy, pretty decent guy. And I'm glad for him.
Yeah, his last match was a one-off. Triple H defeated Batista at 24 minutes 45. I'm going to ask one more follow-up question, but I'm going to give you one more quote. On returning, he says, "It's always a temptation because I miss it. And every time I hear my music, I want that feeling again. It's like a drug. It's pure adrenaline."
No kidding.
Well, that's what I'm about to ask you is, do you still miss it?
Well, I don't miss it now because I know I can't do it. I would miss it if I could do it. But I do miss, like you said, it is a drug. It is a drug that you can get high on just by hearing it and going and seeing all those people. If they could manufacture and bottle that drug and sell it, they'd be a billionaire the first day. Because it is something when you walk out and there's 50,000, 60 or more, 80,000 people. And when you walk out there, there is a certain chemical rush to it. And you can't explain it, but you sure can feel it. So, and I got that sometimes, just not necessarily huge crowds like 80,000, but if say there was 10,000 there, but they are live. When they come alive and you read, here's my favorite saying, read the temperature of the room. See, all you got to do then is go to the ring and they're going to buy everything. One feeling I had there, and I don't even know why I bring this up, but I saw these guys. I went to Trinidad one time and they'd never had pro wrestling before, but they were so electric, you didn't have to do anything. When the guys came head to head we used to do introductions and, the referee would, like boxing, bring them together. I mean, they were so electric then, and they were just looking at each other. And the first time one of them, they locked up, the place come in. They had done literally nothing except lock up, maybe take a headlock. And they went, oh. I went, well, what the hell? And I'm thinking, boy, you need to, I told the booker at the time, I said, you don't need to do nothing out there tonight. I said, hold everything down because they're buying everything. So, but of course there was a Puerto Rican office running it. They do everything. They was running through the crowd and blood everywhere, chairs and everything else. So I said, hey, you guys, you run through the six months of material out there in first 3 matches. I don't think they knew what I was talking about. Wanted me to shut up too. Plus I speak in English and they probably couldn't understand what I was saying anyway. So,
Just going on what you were saying before, I may have asked you this before, but I can't remember what you said. Did you get the same like rush as a manager? You know, like Zeb Colter going out in front of 10,000 people plus. Did you get the same rush as a manager as you did as a wrestler?
No, I got the rush. No, you get it as a wrestler more because now you have control of it. Manager has no control of it. The manager is there to be seen and, you know, just be part of the package team. But when you go out there as a wrestler, you have control of those people. And an old time wrestler, and his name is Dick Steinborn. You can look him up. One of the greatest ring technicians that I ever saw when I broke in. But he told me, he said, you can go out there and you can pick them up and you can set them down and you can mellow them out. You can do anything. When you got those people in your grasp, in your control, you can do anything with them. As long as you do it that makes sense. I mean, you can't just pull out a gun, shoot the guy. You can't do that. But within a wrestling context, if you have control of them, and they want you to have control of them. So I've seen those people. If you see two masters in the ring, and I will say the two masters I saw was Dickie Steinborn and Assassin number 2, which was Jody Hamilton. They had matches that even if you were smartened up on the business, but if you weren't, it looked totally real. And that's why I think wrestling has survived over the years, is because, you know, I've heard people say, I know wrestling's fake, but by God, I saw this one match one time. By God, they were mad at each other. And that's what's and I've said this 1,000 times. You got to get them in that is it or isn't it frame. And once you get them in there, you got them.
We're going to move on to WWE Raw this past week, and I wanted to bring to your attention that Bo Dallas as Uncle Howdy actually made his in-ring debut. So I've heard different sort of theories of what should have happened with the Wyatt Six, and it's sort of like a very, very hard group to book. Do you book them as supernatural types? Do you book them as people who you sort of explain their previous story, and then, you know, they're not supernatural, but they've got together for whatever reason? But this was the actual in-ring debut of Bo Dallas, and they actually put it on free TV as well against Chad Gable, who, if you remember when the Wyatt Six debuted, Chad Gable was there. He'd been shot through the head, it seemed like. He had like one bullet wound coming out the side of his skull, and then, you know, he came back the next week. But you watched the match. I wanted your critique of not only the match, but the presentation of Bo Dallas going forward, and also the commentary explaining Bo Dallas and Uncle Howdy.
Let me back this up by saying I wasn't a big fan of the Bray Wyatt stuff. His interviews, he'd go out there and talk a bunch of crap. And I don't want to say it like be unrespectful to him. But I never got him at all. Now, of course, the people holding up the lights and doing all that, yes, they wanted him to be Undertaker-like, but he was so far from Undertaker, I don't even know how he could even be compared to Undertaker. Now, Undertaker is supposed to be a guy who buries people, and, you know, he's supposed to be half dead, and they never said this, but that's the impression you got. But they believed more in the Undertaker than they did Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt never really took off. It never did. It never did. What pay-per-views did Bray Wyatt main event?
There's quite a few. He was the champion for a few months. I don't know if it's post-COVID or pre-COVID, maybe 2021 or something like that. I'd have to look it up, but maybe just pre-COVID, like 2019.
Are they memorable or no?
Yeah, not entirely for the right reasons, though. I think there was like a Hell in a Cell where he just like killed, was it John Moxley or Seth Rollins or something? So the fact that I can't remember it off the top of my head, maybe not.
And you have this Wyatt Six now, SICKS. I got that, but I don't see where they're going and where they're headed, or I just don't understand it. And if you got to sit back and think, where is this headed, or I mean, I think that kind of kills the whole identity of it. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I don't see Wyatt Six doing. They're not really heels. Bray Wyatt wasn't a heel. People liked him. So is he a heel or is he a babyface? First of all, let's determine that and go from there. But you can't make them like regular heels. Where's the heat there? And Bray Wyatt didn't just cheat to beat people. He just beat people. So there's no heat in that. You got to say, good job. You beat the guy. So now that doesn't make me want to see Bray Wyatt get beat any more than, and see him win. I'm in the middle, and that's where you don't want fans to be, in the middle. And I think right now they're probably on the Bray Six side. I think they're more liked than disliked because of their purpose in being there, and that is to honor Bray Wyatt. So if you boo the Wyatt Six, aren't you booing Bray Wyatt in essence? But I know that's thinking too much, but I would bring this up at a creative meeting, and then they would fire me and tell me to go get a job down at the fire department because I'm overthinking it. And I'm thinking it, you got to think the way it's group think. You think like the group, or you need to get out. So, but we'll see. We'll watch the Bryant, the Six, and see where it goes.
Well, they immediately tried to get away from the group being supernatural.
Yeah.
Which they didn't with Bray. They tried to go sort of that more Undertaker supernatural route. Whereas this one, and the commentary was backing that, was also saying, they're not supernatural, they're not magic. It is Bo Dallas paying tribute as Uncle Howdy to his brother. So I thought it was an interesting tact to take, because do you want to take them away from the supernatural edge or not?
They don't know. To me, I think they're totally. They may have an idea about it. I don't think it's going to work. I'm not saying it won't work, but for me, if you're a booker and you write something down, you got to have a feeling here somewhere that this is going to pique the fans' interest. After seeing them, it doesn't pique my interest. It de-piques it. So I'm not, unless they really do something to somebody that I care for, I don't think it's going to get over like they think, unless they just giving them a job out of, in his honor. That's okay with me too. But, you're asking the fans to compete in this, or to conduct themselves in this in a way that makes them a draw. I don't see how they're going to do it.
Tessa Blanchard, redemption interview tour, as Chelsea Green has put it. Anyway, we've mentioned Tessa a couple of times on this show. We're, of course, only going on what we've heard from other people making statements about her, and I think it's fair to say that she's not the most liked out there in the wrestling world, and hasn't been for a few years. There's been accusations of bullying, there's been accusations of racism from her. But here is a quote that she said, and she's talking about her time as Impact Men's World Champion and around that thing.
There were days where I was tired about life, just because my identity was wrestling. I didn't know who I was without it. And in a matter of less than 24 hours, it was like from here to boom, from contract offers from the biggest companies, more money than I'd ever seen in my life, to nothing. To this whole storyline we had built for 8 or 9 months, to me begging the TNA office that day, like, I don't want to win it. I don't want to do this. But, sometimes those things happen, because when your feet are pretty far off the ground, when you fall hard. And that's I didn't know my identity without wrestling. And through all of that, through those ups and downs, those really hard days that I didn't know if I was going to get through, I found out who Tessa is without wrestling.
So basically, I don't know what she's getting at.
Nothing. Who cares? Really? I have nothing against Tessa Blanchard, and I know her father, and I know her relation to wrestling. But that's when you make wrestling bigger than yourself. I mean, is her whole life so wrapped up about wrestling that she can't think of anything else? That to me is very restricting, totally restricting. I mean, it would keep her from doing something else. Now I've seen her work. Is she the greatest? She's good, and I totally disagreed with TNA doing. She was the champion of the men's division.
Mm-hmm.
Why even have a men's division? Or why even have a women's division? Why even do that? Now, if they want to have an intergender division, that's okay. If they want to have that, but I don't. That's another thing I don't get, because I don't. I saw her work. I think she won the title. This guy that weighed like 250, 260. He was a big guy. Now, how could she really compete in a wrestling match, with the guy that's at least twice her weight? And it just can't do it.
It's just
that defies belief, and really basically says to fans on TV, yeah, this is all structured, this is all set up. It's not real.
It was TNA's most desperate times. I think you could agree. They were just trying to do anything. I mean, they made Austin Aries the champion, and
but even making Austin Aries the champion is not as far fetched as making Tessa the champion.
No.
At least he was a guy, I guess, unless he didn't tell us something. But see, if you want answers from me of why these companies do this, I have no idea.
Just
who knows?
They think good publicity. Any publicity is good publicity, I think, and I don't remember pretty much anyone thinking, "God, that was a great idea."
No, and any publicity is good publicity. I've never bought that anyway. What if they come out and said tomorrow that, James on that show asked Dutch anything or whatever, did you hear about him? And then you went out and you shot somebody or killed somebody. Just because you hear about it, that doesn't make you look better at all. Now they're going to wait to see, well, is he guilty or not? Yeah, I never have bought into that any publicity is good publicity. So, and even though making a woman the champion of a men's division, it may get one write-up in news and newscasts, some little, internet wrestling news site. They may get that. But you want to get more than that. You want to get people talking and watching that TV. You want to start making money off your TV, and then get the people talking and buying the pay-per-views and buying the merchandise and selling sponsors. That's what it's about.
Chelsea Green responded. I'm sorry.
I loved her answer, by the way.
Yeah.
Listen to Chelsea's answer.
So I don't wish self-harm or thoughts of suicide on anyone and hope she has found peace. However, a simple "I am sorry" goes a long way. We haven't heard that yet. Accountability matters, and a redemption tour of interviews won't erase the actions of an egotistical bully.
See? She's going to have a hard time getting over that. Who did she bully so much? Everybody?
There was a few people, but yeah, I've seen various different people say she was a nightmare to work with and that kind of thing. And it's not like Tessa wasn't really good at her job.
A nightmare to work with. What does that mean?
Well,
she didn't want to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if she was overly demanding on other people or just refused to do their stuff or whatever it was. A lot of people have publicly said that she was not nice to work with, and she's given an explanation as to why she was difficult to work with, but I guess Chelsea was like saying, well, where's the apology for how you were?
Okay, if I work with you, James, and I thought your stuff, I didn't like it, I would find a middle ground that I would do some of your stuff and you do some of my stuff. At least we've met in the middle. See, she must have not have wanted to do anything of her opponent's stuff, but wanted everybody to sell her stuff. No, that'll get you a bad rap. I've worked with guys like that, and finally I just go in the ring or the next night we said, hey, I'm not doing that anymore. I just straight up tell him. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. Let's call it out there. And we go out there, and sometimes much better matches.
Really?
And I would tell the guy, I said, listen, I'm not doing this. You're not selling my stuff, and I'm not selling your stuff. It's simple. I mean, I wouldn't. I knew the middle point I could reach that wouldn't hurt the match. We could still get through the match. But if you want me to sell like I'm dead, I'm not doing it. I mean, I've had not a lot, because most guys that work with you, you say, but see, when I go out there, I said, do this to me and do this and do this and do this to me. And so when I was a heel, you have most of the offense up front. Now you have no reason at all to not sell my stuff later on, because I've sold your stuff to the max. And now when it comes time for me to get my heat on you, I expect the same thing. But if some of the girls did that to her, and I mean, if they gave Tessa everything up front, well, comes the time when she wants to get heat on her, you gotta respond. You gotta respond in kind and give those guys, or her opponent, give them the same consideration that she got from the woman.
I'd love to have Chelsea Green on as a guest. You should make it happen, Dutch.
I'm gonna call her.
Yeah, you should do. I'd love to have Chelsea on. Right, we've got 2 more bits of news, and then we're going to close down the show. JBL has returned at Triple Mania. I couldn't find the full video. I looked and looked and looked. But he does do a little interference at the end, but he walks out with Nick Nemeth for the AAA, AAA's biggest show of the year. At the end, like Alberto Del Rio and Conan and other people are in the ring. They still do the 6-sided ring as well in AAA as well. Anyway, JBL is looking really good these days. He's jokingly doing CrossFat instead of CrossFit. He's posting on Twitter a lot, his health journeys and stuff. He also made an appearance in GCW and clotheslined Effie a couple of times as well and looked good doing that. What do you think of JBL's recent performances?
Well, my question is, why? Because he doesn't have matches. I don't think he's going to have a match. I wouldn't think. He may. Money's right. But I don't know why he was even in Mexico. Who invited him to Mexico? Conan?
I guess so, yeah. He snuck in wearing a wrestler's lucha mask as well, so no one really knew he was there until the end of it. He's 57 as well.
Oh, he looks great. And he went into the ring wearing the hat and the long overcoat, the wind duster or whatever they call that. But he looked good. What did he do when he got in the ring? I saw the skit of it.
Basically, just I think a close. I can't remember. It was like a week ago when I saw it. I cannot find the video of it. But he did something briefly physical, and then I think did he shake hands with Alberto Del Rio and aligned with him. Here's the point. As you say before, maybe he's not getting in for a match, but maybe he is. Maybe he does want to do one more.
I saw them. They beat this one Mexican babyface. Almost beat him for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was a long segment.
And he was bleeding, and he's bleeding, and he's sitting there, and I don't know. And the people were just sitting there. People saying, damn, don't he have any friends in the dressing room at all? At least some of them, aren't they watching this in the back after they see what's going on? That's another thing I didn't understand. What group was this AAA?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't understand that. Did you understand it?
I'm glad you saw the video, because I couldn't find a link for it. I couldn't find it for you, but you've seen the original one as well. Yeah, it went on for ages, that ending segment.
It went forever. It went like 15 minutes, really. And most of the time, it just guys coming in, and Nemeth coming in, and Conan was in. And it was started with Del Rio and the guy. I don't even know who won. I think Del Rio beat him. Then he was already bleeding. And then some people come in, I guess I don't speak Spanish, to teach him a lesson. I don't know what was going on. I didn't, of course, maybe knew what was going on, I'd be more confused than I am right now. And then all of a sudden, and there's JBL. All of a sudden, he's showing up, and Nick Nemeth. And I went, I don't get it, guys. Is it to the point where I've seen too much wrestling? Now you just got to paint by the numbers for me. I don't get it. What's it say?
Oh, it was Alberto El Patron, I should say. He won.
El Patron.
El Patron. He won. Did you see his fight with Tito? Was it Chuck Liddell or Tito Ortiz or something like that?
I tried to miss that.
It was an absolute howler.
Who won?
Oh, Tito. I think it was Tito Ortiz, but yeah, it was a complete disaster. Like, Alberto can barely move. Even in the training footage, he could barely move.
How old is he?
He is, I'm glad you asked that, 47.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I'm just looking at his, yeah, Tito Ortiz, he was killed via rear naked choke first round, 3 minutes 10 in. But yeah, I remember seeing the training footage of that, and he was hitting the pads. He's 42. And yeah, I'm sure you get a lot of injury from wrestling, but he was hitting the pads like, and this was like the hype video kind of thing, and he could barely move. So anyway, yeah, to no one's surprise, Tito killed him.
okay. Mark it down. I didn't like that deal with El Patron and JBL.
Okay, but as far as JBL and, with the other one from GCW, he looks like he's moving well. Do you actually think he might be attempting a comeback, or why is he just appearing all of a sudden?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He may do one with, what's it, Jiffy?
Effie.
Effie, the gay guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, did you ever see the one that Effie did with, when they used the dildo? Did you ever see that?
No.
You didn't see that?
No.
I'm going to find it and I'm going to send it to you.
The dildo?
Yes. And he was trying to get it up some other guy's behind. Yeah, I got it. So, and it was a guy that was wrestling Effie that you know. That I think you would know.
Okay. Who was
No,
it?
everybody knows him. I'm going to find it for you.
You don't have to.
You go ahead and stop it 1 second and go ahead and see if you can
I'll
find
pause it 1 second. Okay, I've been searching for a couple of minutes. Is it Effie's Big Gay Brunch where there's a man in a white body stocking on a table?
I don't know. But let me ask you something. How can we start out by talking about wrestling and end up toward the end with talking about a dildo?
It's a wacky old business, isn't it, Dutch?
Boy, it's true. We can talk about anything with wrestling, and that's true. You can. I'm going to find that. I'm going to send it to you, and we'll play it next week.
That's more of a threat than a promise, isn't it?
Well, you don't have to show it, but you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay, then. Right, we're going to finish on this one. Vince Russo, Heat with The Undertaker, apparently, on one of his numerous podcasts, because Vince Russo does have a lot of podcasts, he revealed the following. Quote, I found out through Terry Taylor that I had a little bit of heat with Taker. Terry said to me, he told me he always asked him to work when he was hurt. You used to expect him to work when he was hurt. That really hurt me, says Vince Russo. I respected The Undertaker more than anyone else. I would never in my wildest dreams ask somebody to work a match hurt if they were hurt. With all due respect, Taker never told me he was hurt. Okay, you know Vince Russo pretty well. Is he the kind of person who would ask somebody to work when hurt?
No, if Undertaker was hurt in the WWF or E, no, you couldn't ask him to work. You could, but they're not going to do it.
But he did work. That's the thing. He worked hurt all the time, though. Didn't everyone? Like, how hurt is hurt?
Yeah, but if they knew that he was hurt and he had reported that to Vince, no, they wouldn't even put him down to work. Now, Vince may have had him in something, and he may have asked him to work, and maybe Vince didn't know it. But how could Vince ask Taker to work when he was hurt? He could, but it's not happening. And Vince wasn't the most, where would he ask him to? I don't know when Vince could ask him to work, really. When was this? Well,
let's talk. Look, I think it's like 98, 99. What are you looking at?
I don't think it's any of your business.
I'm very interested in what you're staring at. Is someone coming to hit you?
No, my daughter is coming in, and I have my glasses off, and I can't tell who's with her.
Oh, okay then. Okay, so with that being said, Vince Russo's the writer. He's not. I mean, he's the writer. He's not detailing, I'm sure, people's injuries. I mean, is it even Russo's job to know if they're hurt? I mean, assuming they're on the booking sheet, as you say. I mean, is it Vince Russo's job to know who's hurt and not?
Well, yes, it is, because if I'm writing something and they send me a list, say these guys are hurt, they're not available. And I put him down. Well, that's my fault. But I think all Undertaker would have to do is say, I'm not doing it. And Undertaker would do that. I'm not working. Because, when you make millions of dollars, you don't have to work just because some writer tells you to work. So, and I think this story kind of got misconstrued somewhere along the way. It's another thing. Why are you giving me these stories I don't understand? I don't understand it. So, and who said this? Vince?
Yeah, so Vince Russo heard through the grapevine that The Undertaker was annoyed with him because Vince Russo would ask The Undertaker to work when hurt.
That grapevine carries a lot of bullshit with it.
Mm-hmm.
That grapevine may have some things that aren't true.
Back in the 1990s, major companies would, of course, just expect you to work, unless your head was lopped off. I mean, what was the sort of cut-off point where a company would actually be sympathetic to you when you said, look, I'm too hurt to wrestle?
If you go to the doctor and you get a note, or you can say, I just can't go today, guys. I can't go. And they can see you can't go. Say if you got a limp, they're not going to put you out there. They're going to put you around something that you're involved in, whether you're hurt or not. And I think this story got a little misconstrued along the way. So, because I don't think he would have asked him to work if he was hurt. And I think maybe that Terry may not have heard it the way that he said he heard it from Taker.
Terry Taylor was the middleman in this one, apparently.
Well, that's easy to get things messed up. He's the middleman. You're getting two sides of the half story.
Chinese whispers.
So, yes, yeah. That's what he's getting.
Okay, then we're going to shut down the podcast at this point. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We will see you again on Tuesday for Ask Dutch Anything. And if you want to submit a question for Ask Dutch Anything, you know the email by now. It's questionsfordutch@gmail.com. Until then, until Tuesday, we'll see you then. We, the people.
See you then.